Hey everybody, I'm Dane Sanders. I want to welcome you to Fast Track Coaching. I'm not sure what episode this is. I think we're in the high 160s or so, maybe 170. And if you've never been to Fast Track Coaching, let me give you a little bit of a snapshot about what we're doing. It's basically a conversation. I get the chance to invite colleagues and folks within and outside the industry of photography to get in some conversations that we think will not only be beneficial for us as we're talking as colleagues, but also inviting other people to listen in and participate and maybe get inspired or get some nugget that they can move their business or their creativity further just a little bit this week. And that's why we do it every week. It's why they're short, because we don't want to give you so much content that you're overwhelmed. We want to give you just enough to get going, to build the momentum in a direction that's going to be constructive and helpful. And we're able to do this thanks to our friends over at Adorama, who underwrite the whole thing. They make it free, as well as all the archives are free for you as well, over at blog.fasttrackphotographer.com. So I hope you take advantage of those. But without further ado, I don't want to waste any time. I want to introduce you to our guest for today, and that's my friend Marcus Bell from Australia. And Marcus, I see that you're there, but I don't see your video screen.
You don't see my... Here we go. Let's see. There we go.
Oh, there he is. Perfect. So welcome to the show, my man. I can't believe we've never had you on before now, and it's a thrill to have you here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I think it's a great thing that you do, sharing all the information, for other photographers. So I'm glad to be a part of it, and thanks for the invite to be a part of your show.
My pleasure, man. And well, to give people a little bit of context, everyone knows who you are, but just for context, in case there's someone brand new to the industry or just watching the show or whatever, give us a little bit of a broad stroke snapshot of your journey as a professional photographer up until now.
Yeah, I started a little bit over 10 years ago, and like a lot of people, I just had a dream to have a better life, and for me, that was photography. And then I really just sunk my teeth into it, and I guess it was like a fire in my belly. Like as soon as I started, you couldn't put it out. And just went from strength to strength, and it was a lot of trials and tribulations and errors along the way, but, we've got a successful business, and have had for the last 10 years, and, it's been great. It's a great journey.
Well, it's interesting, coming from you have a unique challenge, I think, in that not only are you known and have contributed to our industry here, where you're known a lot here in the United States, where I'm at, but you also are doing that in the context of a very competitive market in Australia, and you're known internationally because of your contributions as a creative. I hear a lot of photographers, at least in this part of the world, talk about, gosh, how hard it is when there's a lot of competition, and how do you stand out, and how do you differentiate? And you're someone who's kind of famous for consistently, over and over and over again, finding a new way, with the craft and how you're presenting your work to differentiate and be unique. Talk a little bit about the importance of that idea of differentiating both whatever your geographical region is regionally, but also if you want to make a mark internationally, how important it is to differentiate.
Yeah, I think it's really, it's the key to great success, because one of the things is that, you've got to separate yourself from everyone else, and you've got to sell yourself to potential clients. So, that's done in a variety of different ways. One of the things that we're very conscious about is the images that go up on the blog, on our website, in our magazine advertisements, people are asking for editorial images, the ones that we'll give them, because every one of our images has a brand, who we are and what we do. And the great thing about that is that we get like-minded clients attracted to us from following through every day in making sure that what we put out is what we're going to get back in. Yeah. It's one of the important things that I found pretty good. The other thing I would say is that it's great to be naive. I think, naivety in business is fabulous, because it means that you go down different paths and you do different things that most people, maybe never thought of or thought were impossible. And I've always done that, ever from the start. But one of the things that I thought was pretty funny at the start, I thought, that I would work in a business in photography for 2 to 3 years and work really, really hard at it, and then I could just sit back and enjoy it. It's like labor. And that's certainly not true. As soon as you, take your foot off the pedal, like your business goes backwards very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And we've always certainly found that. And so we've always strived to continually work on our business, always, striving to do bigger, better, and, just to stay afloat even, it's always hard work. So it was very fun.
It's funny, I'm always surprised at how little conversation there is in the industry about the nature of being a service professional. I mean, it's not like we create a single product that, well, some genres, I guess you can create an image and sell it multiple times, but for most of us who are photographing people and events, the service-based business is requiring us to all go out and get a whole new batch of clients. Even if we have repeat clients, there's still a need to constantly be adding people to the pipeline and, like you say, stay relevant to your market and in the industry. But it's rare that I hear, and maybe I'm just missing it, but it's rare that I hear photographers talk about that reality. Because you're right, it does. I think there's a lot of newer photographers who they underestimate how much effort it's going to be for the long haul to keep reinventing themselves and keep putting themselves at stake in a sense. Is that kind of ballpark of what you mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think as soon as you stop trying, you're going to start going backwards without even realizing it. And one of the things that I've always tried to do is, sort of keep up with what's current and happening, or what future possibilities are for our industry. I think it was like about 4 or 5 years ago we started looking at cinematography because of the advent of cameras changing and so forth like that. So as soon as we got inkling of that, we actually sort of put a lot of time and ideas into how if the ever to merge, we could be prepared for that and make changes as possible. And and that's been constant all the way through. Like one of the luckiest things that I experienced, I think, was the change from going in from like analog film to digital. And we were one of the very early adopters. We used to shoot all film and get everything scanned. And this is probably 2-3 years before the first digital camera came out. Because I guess we saw the possibility of that happening. And it worked for us because it really put us years ahead of like a lot of other businesses and that we were competing against as well. And we had a unique product that we could offer instantly.
I mean, it's funny when you say kind of keeping that competitive edge and seeing where the industry is going and getting in front of that. You mentioned that from a business perspective, but also one of the things that you're especially famous for is just in your image making, the creativity part of it. It seems like you keep wanting to push the threshold. Like when I first started following you, it seemed like I saw a lot of natural light photography, and as technology has improved and it seems like you've expanded in your repertoire of offering now, and where you'll introduce pro photo lighting, or there's this one image I actually saw it in a pro photo ad, and I was like, are you kidding me? Where you have the bride on the cliff and you have your guy in the ocean try to get some spotlight on him, and then you take him out in post. I was just so struck by that kind of images that you envision, and that you're leveraging all of these new technologies that are available, both again from a creative perspective, but then also being shrewd as a business person. It seems like, how do you pull off both? Because it seems like most of the people in this industry are either hyper on the artistic or hyper on the business savvy, but you seem to have found a nice mix in between.
I think the biggest love in my life, other than my wife and my kids, is definitely photography. It really is my passion. I love producing great images, capturing an amazing moment, and then being able to share that with other people, So it's so important to me, that I do that every day. The thing I know is that could be easily taken away from me. And so I've always known and understood that, if I didn't have a business, I wouldn't get to do what I do. And so that's why I guess I'm very passionate about having a good quality business, because it also means that you get to photograph fabulous people. Coming back to, about the lighting, I think, one of the biggest things over the last 5 years is really differentiating ourselves, not against just competing other photographers, but consumer, the mums and dads.
That's right.
It's amazing what they can produce at home now, like, just on their printer, take it to any lab, but anything that we could have done in the last 20 years, they can actually produce themselves, very, very easily. So it's always been trying to do things that they can't do. And that's why I brought lighting into, some of the weddings that I do and some of the other I do, is because they can't do that and they can't have a, articulate, the 15, 20 years of understanding lighting and composition that I know. And then I can demonstrate that quite easily, like that shot you mentioned in Bali on the cliff, for me, I already envisaged that shot even, before I got on the plane to go over there, rang the local pro photo dealership over there, organised tour assistants to come, bring that lighting specifically for that one shot.
Wow.
And that was, I guess, the lengths that I go to now to, differentiate myself, and it helps us in our business. But, it's also a shot that I'm very proud of and love, and that's always the foremost in what I do.
Yeah, it's interesting. We had a little while ago, I had my friend Trey Ratcliffe on the show, and Trey's kind of this HDR poster boy around the world, and he's done very well for himself in that genre. And one of the things that he talks a lot about is separating the creative process from the commercial process. So he'll go on all these personal journeys and create all these really interesting images, having no idea how he's going to make money from them. But then he'll come home and kind of package them up or sort them out in a certain kind of way and then sell. And he does very well. And then I think of other folks like Jeremy Cowart's been on, and he talks a lot about personal projects and just putting himself in the best possible position to get something radically creative, and then parlaying that into he keeps finding himself being able to parlay that into something meaningful. And it sounds like what you're describing is very similar again, where gosh, at your own expense, not sure you're going to even be able to pull the shot off necessarily. Like when I saw it, I was like, just the fall off of light, I was like, how did he do that? I don't understand. But part of with technology improving at a level and understanding how it works, and with this commitment to differentiating, it is really possible. But there's a risk there of you are putting yourself out there as a creative to come up with something new, and it might not work. And we always hear the stories of how it does work. Do you ever find yourself doing these kind of creative efforts and they're like, it just failed, it didn't work out? Or is it just like, and I'm leading the question because I know these are the things that people are asking at home. They're watching this video, they're like, okay, I'm going to go do something creative, but they're scared to pull the trigger and, go to Sammy's and rent a bunch of gear and go do, get a thing set up. And what if it doesn't work out? And then what if that doesn't translate into, a revenue producing opportunity, but yet you still do it? Do you ever fail in these efforts, or are you just keeping it out of the park every time?
I mean, failing is a great thing. I mean, I think,
That's Twitter worthy. Failing is a great thing.
Because if you don't fail, how are you going to learn? And so one of the good things is that I've learned over the years too, it's like having good friendship with Greg Gibson and Cliff Mountner, and they came from different schools to, most wedding photographers, where they were out there working for, Associated Press or the Philadelphia Choir, and they have, they have to get the shot. You know what I mean? But what the thing is that they've always learned is that once they've got the shot, is that they can then
push it,
play and push it to get something even better. And I think that's what I do. I mean, funny thing, you talk about personal, projects, and I love doing personal projects. And I think, for a lot of photographers, they do that, because they have, a passion for it. They want to, I guess, not see what they're doing day to day as the grind of, capturing those images. But one of the things that, I see weddings as is a personal project for me, because I have that mindset is I want to create something that's really unique and, very creative and not just the normal on someone's wedding day. So like I'm still going to do all the safety shots. I'm still going to, get the must-haves and things like that. And once I feel like I've got that, then I've got that room, maybe 1 minute or 30 seconds or half an hour to try something new, try something different, really push myself to get something amazing. And I think that's where a lot of these shots that people see is of mine where they go, oh wow, and that's where that's happening. Is because of the mindset, is that I'm looking at, engaging in the wedding as like I was shooting for myself, where the client's going to benefit greatly from that, because that's what they attracted me, to them in the first place, is that they wanted something really special and something a little bit out there, a little bit different, and know that I'm not just going to give them the standard, that I'm going to go that extra mile for them.
I love the way you put that, Marcus. I mean, the idea of taking a paid gig, establishing kind of the lowest common denominator, the ultimate, like the stuff that you need to get, but then even treating a particular event or a particular shoot as an opportunity to find a personal project in a paid project, which is just really, and I've heard that too with folks who will do thematic things. Like, you hear the classic, like take a picture of a door or, whatever, but some version of that where this is part of all of their work, where they always have a signature effort in a certain direction. So I really love how you're putting that. But where I want to go in this conversation is I want to talk a little bit about creative style, because it seems like the overarching conversation around how to differentiate assumes that I'm differentiating in a particular direction. I'm not just doing something different for difference sake, but I'm doing something different that's in alignment with a noteworthy, where I can see an image and go, oh, yeah, that's a Marcus Bell. Like, there it is. Or there's a Cliff Mottner. There's a Greg Gibson. And as you develop that style, you can kind of lean in and go even further and deeper with that. But for folks, again, who are kind of on the front end of their first decade and they really want to develop that style, what advice do you give? Because this is something you are known for. You have a distinct style. But what do you tell folks who are like, okay, I don't have a distinct style. I would like to get a distinct style. I'm willing to do the work to get the distinct style. What advice do you give them to get on that road?
Well, I think like in anything in life, you've got to be passionate about what you do. Otherwise, you're only going to put like a half an effort in. You know what I mean? So, and I think if you're going to do this long term, you're going to really have to love it. You know what I mean? If you have a style, you better like think, well, this is what I really like doing. Yeah. So, if you're like, like say someone like, the great Jerry Johannes, and, loves lighting, loves posing and orchestrating the wedding day, go down that track. If that's what you love, if you love posing, people having a lot of control over the day, where like I'm very much the opposite, is that I want things just to naturally just happen, and I want to record the event, and then at chosen times during the day, is just step in and just sort of like tweak things just a little bit, or perhaps see a scene where I can actually place them and theoretically like just get them to walk through that scene without them realizing it. Right. Get the spot. You know what I mean? So I guess like what a lot of photographers come back to me about my style is that I see moments that they often don't see at weddings. And if anyone ever comes out on a wedding, that's one of the things that they immediately say. They say to me is that, Marcus, I can't believe I was standing right next to you and you captured that shot. I can't even I didn't even see it. And I guess for me, like I have a very strong emotional connection with people, with how they're feeling, and what's going through their minds and what's happening. And sometimes, they're funny, quirky little moments, and other times they're very emotional, heart, warming moments. And I guess I engage in that, and I love capturing emotion and the heart of a wedding. And I guess that's really, at the end of the day, my style. And then what has developed is my post-processing, which goes back to, what even great documentary photographers used to do in the darkroom, in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and just basic dodging and burning. Right. What I found is that, you draw people's attention to the center of interest, and then you disguise areas that aren't as important, perhaps. So you just sort of darken those areas down, and you might lighten the areas that are more relevant. and in that way you can guide people around the image and tell that story. And that's what I love to do, is tell that story of that moment in a beautiful frame.
You know, it's so interesting how with all the power of technology and where it's taken us and all the different things that can happen, that the folks who I are just here. And honestly, you need to know this, Mark. It's every time I get in a conversation with colleagues who I just have such esteem for, and you're one of them. It's so funny to me to hear guys like you, and Cliff said the same thing. It was really funny. You really need to focus on basic dodging and burning, and like really. In a day when I can click one button and it can go pop, 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 and everything can happen, what I'm hearing the masters really say is, well, actually, take the tools that have been working for, you know, a couple 100 years and leverage those artfully and carefully and with nuance and even and like you guys are journalists in the way you shoot, and to hear you say like, yeah, we're journalists, but we're not dummies. Like we set them up to walk into a great scene that will make, you know, it'll be ideal, and I'll be positioned in the right thing, and I'll anticipate it, and I'll get it, and then in post to enhance in unique ways like you're describing. It's just really striking, and even your mention of Jerry is a great example, because Jerry's someone I have high esteem for. I don't photograph like he does, but I'm having been around him and seen him shoot, and I don't even think he knows how to open Photoshop. Like he really does remarkable work in camera. But his style, you're right, it's so distinct and unique from all the different players we're describing. And I'm just moved by it, honestly. But isn't it kind of funny that dodging and burning is the new technology in 2012?
Yeah, you know what's really great is like Adobe even have put so much emphasis on that now. Like even just with Lightroom 4 just
yes, it just came out, right?
Yeah, you know, it's just like, you know, like they've even improved that, you know, dodging and burning module, you know, which is the brush tool.
Yeah.
In the raw stack, you know, and they've like developed that, and because they're listening to photographers what they want. Yeah. So we can actually do a lot of our post-production either in Lightroom or, you know, Adobe Camera Raw, whichever the one you prefer, before even taking it into Photoshop. But, you know, like on that, there's heaps of free tutorials where I describe about dodging and burning on our website too. So if people want to learn a little bit about what I'm talking about, you know, I don't keep any secrets, so there's free tutorials that they can go and have a look at.
And that's at the photographersresources.com site, is that right?
Yeah. And then just under tutorials, and there's you know, like a whole lot of information that they can go to and links that they can, you know, view tutorials as well.
Awesome. So in case you missed it, and it's funny, when I went to that site, I typed in photographers plural resources or resource.
Resources, yeah.
Okay, resources.com, and it took me to the U.S. version of that site. I don't know how you're brilliant in how you have people direct to where they need to go, but you're right. There's a ton of great information there, resources. There's things that are free. There's things that people can acquire too if they want to invest in those things. But to go check that out there, it's a fantastic resource. Talk a little bit about your experience with being named American Photo Top 10 from Australia. Was that a surprise to you? Was it exciting? Was it like, it's just one more thing? Because it's funny, when I talk to you about these things, you're like, yeah, I got that award. That's right. And I can't tell if you're just being, you know, Australian cheeky, or if it really is, that's not as significant to you. Because I'm guessing that for a lot of folks, that would be a pretty big deal to be named top 10 in the world.
Yeah, you know what, I mean, I do value it a lot, you know, like I don't discount it at all. But one of the things that I've found is, you know, once I've, you know, got an award, you know, I'm moving on to, you know, like, anyway, like, it's sort of like, one of the criticisms I get, you know, from the staff here, you know, at the studio is that I never, you know, like, I guess, celebrate my success. And I guess because, like, you know, like, I always think that, you know, my next great image is tomorrow, and that's what I'm looking forward to, you know, is capturing that. So I'm not looking at what I've done in the past. I think for me, as a personal thing, it's rewarding that, like, I'm maybe heading on the right track for my fellow peers that they're saying, yeah, like, you know, that looks really great. You know, it sort of give you a bit of a pat on the back, and and I keep moving on to something bigger and better. And I guess because it comes back to, knowing that if I'm not progressing, then my business is going to go backwards, and I won't get to do what I, want to do. So I'm always looking towards the future, rightly or wrongly. I do, very much appreciate all the awards and everything that I've won, but I guess it's more of a personal thing that keeps me in check to where I really want to get to, and wherever that is, I don't know. But I just know that I'll never master what I do, and that's a great thing because it keeps me interested in this industry. It keeps me interested in what I'm doing. I love it more, than the day I first started. And that's the most important thing for me, that I just feel energized by it.
It's funny. It's really refreshing, and I know folks at home are saying the same thing to themselves. But for you to be in a position in the prime of your career, to have had the longevity you've had and the consistency you've had for so long, but have this kind of learner's humble posture. Like, I want to go. I've been doing this for 10 years. Top 10. Awards. International acclaim. Yeah, thanks. Have a beer, and then we're done. And now we're going to go move on and treat it almost like, given what I know now, I want to go reinvent again. That, in my mind, that's pretty much the ideal kind of leader that I think our industry needs right now. We need a bunch of us please forgive me for asserting myself even in that category, but we need a bunch of leaders who are willing to keep doing that, to keep jumping in the fray and reinventing, relearning, retweaking, expanding, stretching, and I'm just so grateful that guys like you are in the game, man. Thank you for what you're doing.
I think, for me, I learned from such great photographers that, were mentors, personally, but then people that I aspire to, when I first got into learning about photography, I was introduced to the Magnum photographers and people like Carter Rasson and Elliot Earle, and later that I ended up getting to meet on a couple of occasions. And,
wow.
It was just for them, and admiring their work. I just think their work is just as relevant today as
no doubt
years ago. So I think a lot of photographers that are just coming into the industry fresh is that they've got a wealth of 100 years of knowledge that they can aspire to and learn from, and I guess a little bit like fashion, a lot of things get reborn, because like the stuff that was done in the 50s, there's obviously a lot of different genres as well, there was the movie sort of style, cinematography style photography in the 50s, but also documentary was just really making some waves then as well. And I guess photographers then choose what inspires them and find photographers or work that inspires them, and then we'll bring that a little bit into what they do daily, and then take it to a new place. And that's what's so.
Well, that's so helpful. So final question. Let's say you get plucked from Australia and you get dropped somewhere else, and you don't have a great studio, and no one knows your name, and they change your name, and you haven't, and the only thing you have available to you is what you know, but you don't have anything to show for it, and you're starting over, and you have a year. I used to say 90 days, but now I say a year. So you have a year. What do you do in your first year of wanting to differentiate, of wanting to establish yourself as a contributor to our industry?
I think sell your passion. Your passion is going to be more contagious to potential clients than anything else, and probably more important than any image you can show them. First of all, people connect with people. So if you can be on top of your game and who you are, feeling great about yourself, love knowing what you do, and be able to share that passion with someone else, I bet you 9 out of 10 times that those people are willing to engage in you and have them photograph, your wedding, just because of your passion alone, let alone for you to show any images. So.
That's great. Well, my friend, thank you. You're a day in front of me, which is always trippy to me when I talk to my friends in Australia, and it's surreal because you know what's coming tonight and I don't. But anyways. Thank you so much for being on the show, and always a pleasure. Great to see you a couple weeks ago in Vegas, and hopefully we'll see you again later on this year. But thanks again for being on the show, man.
Yeah, no, thank you for the invite. And if anyone wants to follow me on Twitter, they can just go to mbell photo and hook up and say hi. And if they've got any questions, feel
That's
free
great. And thank you for reminding me of that. And one last thing, if they photographersresources.com, go check that out so that you can. Is it photographer or photographers? I keep mixing it up.
Photographer resources.
Photographerresources.com. Go there now, check it out, and be sure to say hi to Marcus Bell. Thanks again, Marcus.
No worries, mate. Have fun.